My parents ordered me to hand over my house, the one my grandmother left me, to my brother. They threatened to sue, believing they had me trapped. They had no idea that my grandmother and my lawyer were about to give them the surprise of their lives from beyond the grave. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The flu was bad this year, but the fever spiking to 103 felt like a special kind of misery. I was bundled on my sofa, in the house I'd worked my entire life for, when my phone buzzed with an ominous, family meeting group text from my mother. I was in no condition to go anywhere. I typed back that I was severely ill, but my phone immediately rang. "Jessica, this is not optional," my mother's voice snapped, devoid of any concern. "We are coming to you. We'll be there in 20." The call ended before I could protest. A chill, entirely unrelated to the fever, ran down my spine. My family only called meetings when they wanted something. Specifically, when my younger brother, Leo, wanted something. True to their word, my parents, Robert and Mary, arrived with Leo in tow, his new fiancée clinging to his arm. They didn't ask how I was. My mother walked into my living room, looked around with a critical eye, and announced, "Well, this will do nicely." "Leo, darling, don't you think the sofa would look better against that wall?" I coughed, the effort rattling my chest. "What's going on?" My father cleared his throat, taking on the self-important tone he used for official family business. "Jessica, you know your brother is engaged. They need a place to start their lives. Your mother and I have decided that you will be giving them this house." The words hung in the air, so absurd they barely registered through my feverish haze. "Giving?" I whispered. "Yes," my mother said, as if explaining to a simple child. "It's far too big for just you. We'll have the papers drawn up. You can be out by the first of the month." The betrayal was worse than the illness itself. My head swam. "You want me to leave my own home while I'm sick?" My brother Leo, who had been studying my sound system, finally piped up. "Come on, Jess, it's not a big deal. You make plenty of money as an analyst. You can just get an apartment." His fiancée, a woman I'd met twice, simply smiled. "It's so generous of you, Jessica. We just adore the neighborhood." It was the casual, entitled way they discussed my life. The 60-hour weeks, the saved bonuses, the meticulous planning, as if it were a resource pool for them to draw from. "No," I said, my voice hoarse but firm. "Absolutely not. This is my house. I bought it." My mother's face darkened. "Don't be selfish, Jessica. We helped you with this house. Don't forget that." I flinched. They had co-signed an early loan, a small one that I'd paid off years ago, but I knew they'd hold it over me forever. "This discussion is over," I said, pushing myself up from the sofa, the room spinning. "Please leave." My father's face turned a dangerous shade of red. "You will do as you are told, or you will regret it. We have a legal claim." They left, the front door slamming shut, leaving a toxic silence in their wake. I collapsed back into the cushions, my heart pounding. A legal claim? It was absurd. But my parents, when enabled, were like bulldogs. I shivered, reaching for my phone. There was only one person who could help me. As I dialed, a thought, a memory, surfaced. A phrase from my grandmother when she gave me the inheritance for the down payment. "This is to protect you, Jessie, especially from them." They had forgotten one crucial thing: my grandmother. My grandmother was the only one who ever truly saw me. While my parents poured all their time and money into Gifted, Leo and his endless, failed music ventures, I was the responsible one. That meant I was the one who was expected to be self-sufficient, to never ask for anything, and to eventually foot the bill. I worked my way through college, landed a demanding job as a financial analyst, and saved every penny. The inheritance from my grandmother wasn't just money, it was freedom. It was the down payment on this house, my sanctuary. My parents, Robert and Mary, had always resented it. They saw it as money that should have gone to them to fund Leo's lifestyle. Their help with the house had been co-signing a small $5,000 gap loan, which they'd done only after their lawyer, Mr. Harrison, at the time advised them it was low risk. I'd paid it off in 6 months. Now, this woman, Leo's fiancée, was the new catalyst. I'd only met her twice, but she was a polished, disingenuous creature. She'd spent our first dinner asking pointed questions about my job, my portfolio, and most unnervingly, the square footage of my house. "You're so luck. Why to have all this space?" she'd cooed, while poor Leo has been struggling in a tiny studio. I saw her manipulative nature instantly, but my parents were blinded by her flattery. She was the one who had clearly put this idea in their heads, and now my parents were the willing antagonists, ready to bulldoze their own daughter to appease their golden boy and his greedy partner. The fever broke the next morning, leaving me weak but clear-headed. The fear had been replaced by a cold, hard resolve. My parents had declared war. They were counting on me to be the same passive, dutiful daughter I'd always been. They were wrong. I called David Chen, the estate lawyer who had taken over my grandmother's affairs after Mr. Harrison retired. At 45, David was sharp, professional, and had a meticulousness that, as an analyst, I deeply respected. "David," I said, my voice steady, "my parents are trying to take my house. They're threatening to sue, claiming they have a right because they co-signed an old loan." There was a pause on the line. Then, to my absolute shock, I heard David chuckle. It wasn't a small laugh, it was a full, genuine laugh. "Jessica," he said, sounding amused, "I was wondering if this day would ever come. Your grandmother was a very, very smart woman. Please come to my office. Bring any paperwork you have from that old loan. I have a file here you're going to want to see." I felt a jolt of adrenaline. This was it. This was the protection my grandmother had mentioned. I pulled up the old, paid in full loan documents. The clever trap wasn't just my financial independence. It was a legal document, a contingency, a time bomb left by my grandmother. My parents hadn't just forgotten about her, they had forgotten how well she knew them. I wasn't just investigating, I was loading the cannon. My parents, true to form, didn't wait. They served me with a letter of intent from their lawyer, a poorly drafted document demanding I begin transfer proceedings or face a lawsuit for the value of their initial investment plus interest, which they had laughably inflated to half the home's value. They were trying to bully me. I called my mother. "I've received your letter," I said, my voice as flat and emotionless as a balance sheet. "I'm at my lawyer's office now. We should all meet." The arrogance in her voice was staggering. "Good, you're finally seeing sense. We'll be there in an hour to accept your surrender." When they arrived at David Chen's office, my parents and Leo looked smug. David, in a crisp suit, gestured for them to sit. "Mr. and Mrs. Robert," David began, "we've reviewed your letter. Before we discuss your claim, I'm required to review the terms of Jessica's inheritance from her grandmother." My father waved his hand. "That's her money. This is about our money." "Actually," David said, leaning forward, "it's about both." He pulled out a thick, bound document. "Your daughter's inheritance, which provided the down payment for her home, was governed by her grandmother's will, and that will contains a rather specific clause. It's often called a poison pill clause." My mother's smile faltered. "A what?" "A clause," David said, "that states that if any family member, and she names you, Robert, you, Mary, and you, Leo, specifically, should ever attempt to make a legal claim or force a transfer of ownership on any asset purchased with this inheritance, well, a second, separate trust is activated." The air in the conference room turned to ice. "What separate trust?" my father demanded, his voice suddenly uncertain. "Ah," David said, "the one you and your wife currently draw your primary income from, the trust your mother-in-law set up for your retirement, the one you thought you controlled." My mother went white. "She couldn't. We're the trustees." "You're the managers," David corrected gently, "but the will is the master document. And it states irrefutably that the moment you file a lease pendens against this house, or attempt any form of legal strong-arming, you forfeit your status. The entire principle of that trust, all $2.8 million of it, is to be immediately liquidated and transferred, in full, to the National Wildlife Fund and the ASPCA." Leo, who hadn't understood, just looked confused. "What does that mean?" My mother turned on him, her voice a shrill whisper. "It means, you idiot, that we'll be poor. She's taking our money." "I'm not taking anything," I said, finally speaking. "You are, you're choosing to give it away, all because you couldn't stand that I had something of my own." My father, realizing he was beaten, turned to me, his eyes full of a new, desperate panic. "Jessica, darling, this is just a misunderstanding. A family spat. We wouldn't really sue you." "Your letter says otherwise," David said, holding it up. "This is a formal, legal threat. The terms of the will are clear. Your grandmother defined this meeting, this demand, as the trigger, so the choice is yours. Why? Draw this claim, permanently and in writing, or I make a phone call. The showdown was not in public. It was in that sterile, silent conference room which felt more dramatic than any family dinner. My mother, cornered, did what she always did. She lashed out. "You did this," she shrieked at me. "You set this up, you and that old witch, you were always her favorite." "She was my favorite," I said, my voice quiet but shaking with years of repressed anger, because she was the only one who didn't treat me like a bank. She respected me. She protected me from you. Leo finally understood what was happening. He saw his comfortable life, funded by his parents, evaporating. "Jess, please tell him not to call. I'll talk to them. We don't want the house. I don't even like the house." His fiancée, seeing her meal ticket disappear, looked at Leo with pure contempt and in a moment of stunning clarity stood up. "I am not signing up for this," she announced to the room and walked out. She didn't even look back at Leo. He stared at the empty doorway, his jaw slack. The final, triumphant moment wasn't a shout, it was a whimper. My brother, the golden boy, looked at me, his eyes wide. "Jess, what am I going to do?" It was the first time in his life he was truly on his own, and the realization had broken him. My parents just sat there, two aging, defeated bullies, the poison pill having done its work without me lifting a finger. The downfall was swift and silent. David Chen drafted a new document, a statement of retraction and familial agreement, which my parents signed with trembling hands. It barred them from ever making any claim on my property, now or in the future. Their retirement trust remained intact, but the power dynamic had been irrevocably shattered. They knew, and I knew, that their financial security was now entirely dependent on my silence. I paid David's invoice, which was worth every single penny. I went home to my quiet, peaceful my house. The reconciliation was not the heartfelt kind from movies. It was cold and practical. My brother, humbled for the first time, called to apologize. He got a job, a real one, working in a warehouse. My parents are still my parents, but our relationship is now one of distance and boundaries. They are polite. They no longer make demands. I ensured justice was served not by destroying them, but by allowing their own greed to be their downfall. My grandmother's clever trap gave me more than just a house. It gave me my freedom. I have peace, I have my home, and I have the vindication of knowing I was, in the end, the one who was truly protected.